Okay.
Okay, beautiful. You're welcome to today's class, and today's class is going to be brief, so we can take break for you to go and rest. Today, I want us to look at the relationship life cycle, talking about the supplier and the buyer's relationship. It has a lifespan. Just like a project, it has a date of initiating it. That is the day of onboarding the supplier, and also the day where which the supplier would be taken out of the relationship. So there are a life cycle of it. And that is what I want us to look at today, so we can understand it and to know how to bring supplier on board. Now, for the very first start, the first phase is onboarding, and which is when you are engaging a supplier, wanting to have a dealing with the supplier, to bring the supplier into your thoughts by contracting the supplier, or deciding to go into the market and looking for suitable supplier, and so forth. So this is what you do at that phase. Thereafter, you move on to the next phase, which is called the qualification phase. The qualification phase, let's say the qualification phase is the very first stage, but the onboarding aspect is what envelopes it, because the qualification, you're looking at ways of bringing the supplier on board. That is it spectacularly. You're looking at bringing the supplier on board, and there are two ways we can actually get that done. The first one is request for information. Now, request for information, you are going to seek seek some certain information from the supplier by looking at the number of suppliers in the marketplace, or whether they are large enough for you to choose among from. Because suddenly at this phase, you may not be aware of what is obtainable in the market. So you now may be requesting that suppliers in the market should send you certain information. So that's the RFI, the request for information process, is actually used to shortlist pre-qualified suppliers. Okay, once they send you their information, you look at their information. The information could be their years of experience and certain things that you may want to know about them, to look out for the suitability for your contracting. And secondly, request for proposals is the second phase. And okay, now the request for proposal, it's different from the request for information. Now, request for proposal, you're talking about the job proper. You want them to come and demonstrate how they would be able to carry out the job. Or maybe, for instance, if it is a buy, you want them to tell you where which their quotation would be there, and also the required quality that they are putting out would also be there. But you do this when you feel there are a smaller number of suppliers in the market. And you define, you now the buyer, now you define the scope of what you want them to send to you. Yeah. So in a marketplace that has a huge competition, you ask them for proposal. Come and demonstrate and tell us how you will be able to get it done. And this will enable you to choose among them the best supplier. So that is about the qualification phase. The qualification phase, I said, that is the first stage of onboarding, that bringing on board the supplier. and you do two ways you can use in bringing them on board: by requesting for their information or requesting for their proposals. And also under this column, there's what is called the kata stances. Is a model that you can also use to support the way you would choose the most suitable supplier. And the kata tenses actually talks about their competencies. You may want to know how competent the buyer would be, where which you will check that how competent the supplier would be. You check if the supplier has delivered similar product before. You want to know how competent. You may want to also look at their capacity. You may want to know if they have sufficient capacity to provide the required volume of products. Can you see that? That is capacity.
Exactly.
And also their commitment. They would have to come and demonstrate how they can manage quality by looking at their internal system, or maybe how they are being certified by organizations like ISO. Are they qualified? What is their commitment to quality? You look at it, okay, if you see their quality certification, they have ISO certified. That's to say that, yeah, they are good. We can manage to work with them. So also the control of process. The control of process. Here now, you're looking at various aspects of the control of the process. It may be the internal process and procedures. You're looking at it if the supplier has a control somehow in the industry. Or maybe they are compliant with the regulatory body. And then the C is for their cash. Do they have the required money to run this business even before you now start crediting their account? If they don't have that much money, why give them that much contract? Why contract them? You don't want to start contracting an organization that will rely on you to release money in every stage. Then you may consider their cost, looking at their cost structure. Is it exorbitant? Is it too much? Is it conservative enough for you to deal with them? And 7 is consistency. How consistent are they? How many times have they proven to say that they keep to their words? And you may also want to find out about their culture also. So we are talking about all these C's. Now, the cultural aspect, what are we talking about? Now, talking about that, Carter thought that the supplier should have the same values and ways of operating just as their customers. Are their culture compatible with your culture? You don't want that huge differences. You need a supplier that has knowledge of the way you do business. Certain things that you would accept in your organization. Is it a red flag in their organization? What are the practices that are being carried out in your organization and their own organization? Are there similarities? Or they are opposing each other? Number 9 is clean. How clean are they? Is it that when they carry out their business, they cause pollution in the air? They subject human and property under threat? You may want to know that. And also their communication level. How you intend to use languages to relate with them. You may also look at your system. The system you use, is it compatible with their system? Can there be a mutuality? Are they communicating in languages that will not cost you much? So these are another areas you will look at qualifying buyers and sellers. The next one is the segmentation and risk management. That is number 3.
Yes.
It is very important. Segmentation and risk management, what are you doing here? You want to look at their supply chain and to know what is their risk. If you dealing with them, what will be the risk? By looking at their partnership, those that are in partnership with them, are they people that have been red flagged? Or are they people that are already going out of business? Are they people that have bad reputation in the industry? And the way they carry out their business, are they encouraging child labor? Are they causing reputational risk? So you look at, are they using slaves to do their jobs? Are they forcing people to work for them? That is forced labor. Is it likely that their staffs will go on strike? Because you don't want to contract them, and when they get your money, they now go on strike. You don't want that, right? You want them to be in business until they deliver.
Yes.
Then also you may want to consider how to manage your performance. That is performance management. It is very important. So when they are carrying out the business, now you qualify them, you segment and carry out the risk management. You may also look at how you can carry out performance management, and that becomes the next phase. As they are doing their businesses, what are the measures you're going to put on ground to carry out, to ensure that you are managing their performances very well? You have to come up with safety measures. You have to come up with quality measures, set KPIs in all these areas, key performance indicators in all these areas. You look at delivery, you set KPIs in their delivery, you look at their cost structure, you set KPI and their morale, and also environment, what they should do as regards their business. These are things you must put in place to carry out a good performance management. The next one is development and innovation. Here I said supplier development can result in a number of benefits for both the buyer and the supplier. Base benefits are, it can reduce costs for a buyer and supplier. You understand? Development and innovation, if both of you are innovating, bringing ideas together, you may come up with an idea that can cut down on cost. And if both of you work together and innovate together, you can eliminate certain waste in the supply chain and also reduce costs there. And by creating long-term security of businesses. And looking at the mutuality, all of you may be willing and motivated to want to work with one another for a longer period. By so doing, you will innovate more. So that's about development and innovation. And then after this, what should happen? You now start thinking of phasing out. If the project is off, you're thinking of bringing it to an end. But not only that, naturally, a project will come to an end. Certain times, it can happen midway. If there is material breach, right? There are violations of contractual obligations. You may be tempted to want to exit. You may be tempted to want to end that relationship. For instance, material breach such as poor performance. So it depends on the kind of situation of ending the project. If it comes to a natural end, then the phase out will be planned. You can plan it, okay, naturally, if we're ending this, what we'll do, we'll archive the knowledges, we'll gather the lessons learned and archive it. We will ensure that we sign off on every part of the contract concluded. All these are when you are ending it naturally. But at the time that the person is violating certain laws, you may not have time to plan. Yeah. So that's about that. Let's just move on and take a little.
Yeah.
Are you with me? Are you getting anything?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Don't worry. As you're listening, you're recovering, okay? You have to be strong,
Yeah.
because your
Sure.
children, your family needs you strong.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's take them one by one on this section. Appraise portfolio analysis techniques to assess relationships in supply chains. Now, under this area, we have three subsections we may look at. We may look at matrices to identify supplier, and purchaser positions. We may look at developing value-adding relationships with strategic supplier. Also, developing action plans. So these are areas that I want us to look at. And now, talking about the matrices to identify supplier, and purchaser position. We would identify opportunities to move non-contract spend onto a contract. We look at the risk in the context of project model. We will identify an organization key product and suppliers. So you need to know your core product and also your core suppliers. So these are the things that we will be sharing under this column. So here now, there are a number of portfolio analysis techniques that can be used by a buyer to support the development of sourcing and supplier relationship strategy. So these techniques would enable you to support your sourcing and your supplier relationship strategies. What are the techniques? We have three techniques. We have what is called the supplier positioning. The supplier positioning, another name for it is the Kraljic model. We have the supplier preferencing, model, and also the market management matrix. So these three things are very important to your practice as a procurement professional. So I really want you to pay attention here, so we will be able to take some of it today and then come back to them tomorrow. So matrices to identify supplier, and purchaser position. So an organization is likely to have a portfolio of relationships to match its portfolio of product and services. That is to say, several relationships you may have according to the portfolio of products you have. Due to resources and time constraint, it is not beneficial to have a close relationship with each supplier. Okay? So as a result, company will need to analyze and segment its portfolio of products and services in order to access its current position. Always would you do that? You'll be looking at the number. Hello, are you with me?
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you.
You'll be looking at
Yeah,
the number of suppliers you have, and also the number of services you want to carry out, or you want them to carry out for you, or the number of products that you want to buy and the nature of those products, to be able to come out with what kind of relationship you think can give you the best of what is required. Yeah. So,
yes.
all right. We would take it one step at a time. So let's call it a day today. Okay.
Okay.
We will look for time and deal on it the next day that you want us to have the class, because I can see that you need rest.
Yeah.
You need rest, seriously. Yeah, you need rest.